Just a bit of a recap. I just create my HTML page. HTML5 generally says doc type HTML. That's the first line. Your HTML document has a beginning HTML tag. It has an ending HTML tag. The ending tag has a slash. Can everybody read the text on the screen, or is it too small? It's okay? Okay. HTML. Within the HTML, we have two things. We have a head. And you remember this when you did handwriting in school, your teacher said head, body, tail, and all that. You had these 4 colored lines, 2 blue, 2 red. So head and body should be easy to remember. We don't have a tail. The tail, the footer, it sits actually inside the body. Okay, pretty cool. So that's your basic structure of an HTML. First thing I do is I always put a title in my head. I do put a title, yeah. Title. Now I notice some of you use Minified CSS while typing, and that's fine. But while teaching, I don't use Minified. Minified CSS is minimizing the spaces. It basically means taking all the spaces out. Things like, so if I was to minify this, and computers do that, if I kill this, and when you do frameworks, you should always use the minified version because it makes the loading of the CSS faster. And when you are viewing sites on mobile phones especially, you will notice that CSS that is, in fact, you'll notice that CSS that's not minified takes time to load. In fact, there are no enters as well, so it's just one big line, and you just see it with word wrap. But when I do code, I'll do it in this way so that it's easier to understand. I'm just gonna say JavaScript methods. I showed you 2 ways of outputs. I'll just put the script. I can put it in the head or the body. I'll just put it in the body. Script / script. When you start a script, you must end the script. You must really say script type equal to text underscore / JavaScript. But if you don't, it actually assumes that this is something that you should put, and I don't, because just it keeps it clear for while teaching. But you can see if I was to I just want to show you the different types of that, because there are many types of scripts that can sit inside a web page, you see. And if I went and this gives me the entire list. So if I go script, when I put a space, you see sources if I want it externally, type, and see the types of scripts. So yeah, you should be putting this, but the new browsers basically assume that if you're not putting this type, it is JavaScript, and it interprets it as JavaScript. I'm just going to leave it a script to keep the code clean. Variable name is equal to prompt. Everybody familiar with this? Prompt. Last week, prompt. Hey, what's your name? And here you can put a hint if you want. The second parameter is not necessary, but you can put something like John Doe. I can just put Jane Smith. So that has gone into a variable. Now last time I showed you 2 types of things: alert, name, and I need to put a semicolon here. Prompt will work, and window.prompt is the correct one. I'm just going to make it a bit shorter today. Prompt and alert it. So this is one of the things I showed you. I'm just using a text editor. If you're fine using Dreamweaver, use Dreamweaver. I'm going to open this up now. If I go to desktops, projects, script one. So you can see what's your name, and I said delete, and it gives me a dialog box called delete. This was one of the ways we saw of output last week. Just a quick recap. The second way we saw was, I'm going to comment this out now. The second way we saw was document.alert. No, not document.alert, document.write. Write into the document, and we can write. In fact, we can just write name. We can write name, and if I come here and I refresh it, hi, what's your name? Dilip. It says Dilip. I can also go and type. I'll give you the code. Just try to understand this, okay? Don't try to keep up with my typing. Try to understand this. I can also say hello name, and if I go here, oh, didn't work. Maybe I didn't save it. Save it. Run it. So hello DK. I noticed there's no space. So what do? I go and put hello space and refresh it. Oh, Jen Smith. I didn't type my name. Okay. So it doesn't care what I type. It just calls it back. Also, I showed you that we can put tags around this. I can put a tag around this name. So to put a tag here, tags have to go in quotes, and I should have the plus sign to concatenate it, and then another plus sign to end the tag. And HTML tags, and this was Miles' question, is it similar? Yes, I can have HTML right inside my JavaScript. And let's say I'll give it a tag h2. So I get DK h2. Why has it come on the next line? Because h2 is a block level element. Block level elements differ from inline elements. Inline elements sit next to each other. Block level elements sit by themselves. You know, they are like the bosses in your games. They don't want any sidekicks on the side. Only the heroes that have a sidekick. Bosses have henchmen. Okay, but by themselves. So it's a block level element anyway. So that's putting a tag around here. That was the second way I showed you how to get an output. But bear in mind, I mean, since this too is a string, I can actually put this together. But when I put these plus signs, it makes it very clear to me. There's a hello, there's an h2 start tag, then there's the variable. This is a variable, that's why it's not in quotes. It basically picks up whatever is sitting inside name, brings it out, and then closes the tag. Okay, and if I put this as a p tag, for example, if I put it as a p/p, then it has become a paragraph by itself. And Louis is here. I can span it if I just want a different. I can span it if I just want a different style. So span is it will sit in the same line, but to give it a style, I can say class equals name, and I will make a class here. Inside the head, what I'll do is I'll just make a very quick style. I'll make it in the single line style because I just have one. I'll say dot name begin end dot name. I'll just make a simple color red. Style something broke inside the title, inside the head. Style says style. I'll give it maybe name is different thing. It doesn't like the name. Class is equal to red. Class is equal to color me. So I go dot color me. Doesn't like it. What happened? What happened? Let's see. Undefined unexpected identifier, line 11. Okay, it doesn't like these quotes inside quotes. So because I already have two quotes, I should have used single quotes inside. And let me try this time. If name works, dot name. I mean, name is a variable, but dot name is a class, and it should be able to realize the difference between these two. It's a bad idea to do it, but I just want to see if it works. Okay. So yeah, hello Dilip comes in red. So you can see these two methods we have already seen. These two methods we have seen, alert and document.write. And when you use document.write, you can put tags. And because HTML tags can have classes, you can put classes, IDs, and so on. In terms of understanding, is everybody there with me? I'll put this up on the screen and I'll let you type it. But in terms of conceptually understanding this, okay, it's very important to get your head around what's happening in front and the back. Questions, Des, question. All good? So it's clear that the script can output text, it can output HTML tags. Vinny and Luke Hockey. No worries. You missed 12 minutes of recording. You just catch up. But I'm still in the explaining mode, so I will leave the script up for people to type. So just try and log on. Right, the third method that I want you to see is, oh, by the way, suppose I wanted this name. Suppose I wanted this name in upper class always. So I'm introducing you to methods. There are certain methods to things, and I will come to a method called Math.round to solve Kieran's problem. And don't let me leave today without solving that problem, okay? Remind me. So let me introduce you to methods. You see this name right now? Right now, if I type D capital I small, L capital E small, E capital P small, that is what it gives me. But I have a way, a method, and I think it is to upper class. I think it's to upper class. And if I now refresh this and I say D capital I small, L capital E small, E capital P small, space K A T T I Y A R, okay? If I did that, well done. It is my method. I have not used it correctly, but I will look it up in W3 schools. Undefined is not a function. So I've actually used to upper class is not a function. Okay, let's see. I just need to go and check the syntax of it. To upper class JavaScript. Somebody will tell me what's the best way to use it. W3 schools transform it. P dot uppercase. I can do it in CSS, text transform, but there's also a way I can do it in JavaScript. And this is your friend. This guy W3 schools is really your friend. To uppercase method. So you can take a string and say dot to uppercase. Okay. Oh, to uppercase. What did I do? To uppercase. Of course, to upper class is not a function. I'm going to save it now. Go back to my methods. Close this guy. Refresh. Okay, so if I go D I L E E E P K A T I A R, I got some lower and upper cases. and when I output it, you can see. Now this fellow, hello, is coming in capital simply because that's the way I've told it to come. So I can say hello. So you see that what to upper class does, no matter what you do, understand what's happening here. The input, whatever the user is given, sits in name. When the name is being outputted, it actually encounters this function to uppercase. It changes the case of name and then it outputs. Is that okay? You understand that? So let me show you to Math.round. So while I'm dealing with this, I might as well show you JavaScript methods. If you go to JavaScript math, so there are a lot of things. You can get the value of pi, you can get a square root, and you can see math.square root. It's great. I used a lot of these math methods when I made a calculator to calculate home interest payments on home loans. It's very easy. It's a compound interest. Some of you might have learned it in school. And you basically calculate the compound interest over a period of time and you divide it into the number of repayments. So if it's fortnightly, it's about 26 a year, weekly 52 a year, monthly 12 payments a year. Home loans are for 30 years. So if it's monthly, 12 into 30, 360 repayments. So once you get you have borrowed $1 million, then you calculate the interest using these math functions, add it to a million, and then you divide it by 12 into 30, that's 360, you get your monthly repayment. So once you work out the math, you can get a computer to do things for you. Okay? So the problem is never how intelligent the computer is or the software is. It's always how intelligent the programmer is or how diligent the programmer is to work out a solution that works correctly. So coming back to Math.round, there are many things in math. I'll just look it up here. If I just go to Math.round. You have Math.random, and we'll have a play with Math.random. So if you ever want to generate a random number between any two values, you can sort of use Math.random. You can see it. Okay, try it. There, it keeps returning a value between 0 and 0.1. But of course, you can always say that I want it multiplied by 100, and I want Math.round. So multiply the result by 100 and round it off. And now what happens? I get a round figure. You see that? So by default, Math.random gives you a random number from 0 to 1 with 10 or 12 decimals. But I can multiply it by 100 and do a Math.round. Now this is the one that I'm going to use, Math.round. So pretty simple. Just as an example, I'll put a value. Enter a decimal and I shall round it off for you. Okay, and as an example, I'll say 3.49. Okay, document. Hello, so and so. Hello, so and so. Your number rounded off. Oh, what has happened is I can also specify how much I want to round it off to. See, round. Math.round. rounds it off to a round number, but what if I want to specify it to certain decimals? Let's do the round first. Rounded off is we take the value dot or math.random value. So we just put the value, we put math.random and we give it this value. Okay, we put the value to this function math.random and it will math.round, my bad, math.round, and that should round it off for us. So let's go back to our script, refresh it, say dk, let me type a number 4.567. Hello dk, your number rounded off is 5. And there's also a way to round it off to a particular decimal. I can always say take the value, multiply it by 100, round it off, and after rounding it off, divide it by 100. Just to get the decimals back. You know, when you multiply by 100, decimals go in front. Remember the math trick, school? Any decimal multiplied by 100 or 1000, the decimal jumps in front by that many zeros. Yes? No? Anybody knows what I'm talking about? Who is lost? You're lost? Cool. And when you divide, the decimal goes behind. Yeah, that's the easiest thing you can teach a kid. And I think it should be taught in prep straight away. Prep kids understand it. By the time they get to grade 5 when they really need to know it, they're too much into Nintendo and Xboxes and they just don't want to know it. But yeah, this is one of the things I taught my kid very early on. So this should work technically. And let me put a break here. There's a big hello name after the span. I'm just going to put a break here. Break and delete 5.67. So it actually rounded it to 5.67. Cool. Let me go delete and let me go 5.4678932. So it gives me 2 decimals. Okay. So there are ways and means to do it. Some computer programs have math.round and you can just give the value. So in some programs it would be, I'll just show you, I won't destroy this. In some programs it could be math dot, you just say round it off, take the value and give me 2 decimals. You know, sometimes it is like that. So you just have to look up the manual and references. You're not expected to remember everything. Only while years of coding, you start remembering things, you start getting things, you can start guessing how computers work. And if I was totally new to this, my first try would be math.round and I would give it a value, comma 5 or 4 depending on how many decimals I want. So, but I've just done it this way. So what I've given you is 2 uppercase and round, and I finally want to give you the new method of actually outputting. So this is an old method of outputting. We learned this document.write. The new method is in the body. If I have an h2 tag, okay, in the body I have an h2 tag. In the body I have an h2 tag. And in the body I have a h3 tag. So let me just go. Your name is, I'm just going to put an h2 tag. And then I'm just going to put another h2 tag underneath it, h2. This one I'm going to give it an ID. ID equals, this ID is my name, okay? This is empty, okay? So bear in mind the last part of this tutorial now is I'm showing you how to put this output into the page. We learned this last week, This new method requires an ID. So I've got an ID for the name and I'll say your number rounded is, and I'll call this ID my num. Okay, so I've got my name and my num. Your name will appear here. My num, your number will appear here. In fact, this text will not appear at all, but I will show you what's going to happen. I'm just going to save this. Your name will appear here. You see this? Your number rounded is, your number will appear here. Cool? Now, if I want to give this some color, my name and my number, I can always go and give it a class straight away. I can give it a class is equal to name, just so that it appears in red. Or I can go and specify an ID. I can actually go and specify an ID. That's also cool. So if I just go, so this, it'll appear in red. Now let's see the trick. The third method, okay. I'm going to comment this. I'm going to say this. This is output method 1. Output method 1. It's an alert, okay. This is output method 2. Okay, you know that. Output method 1, output method 2. This is output method 3. See, we have an ID and we want the name to appear inside the h2 which has an ID of my name. Okay, you can say document dot get element by ID. You have to be careful of the cases, and if I just close all of these W3 schools, I should be able to get a reference for that as well. So if I say document dot get element by ID W3 schools, I should find the reference for it. It says .InnerHTML. So that's the one, document dot get element by ID. Okay. And which ID do I want? I want the ID my name. And what do I want to do with it? I want to change the inner HTML of it. I can do many things with it. I can get the value from it. I can change the inner HTML of it. If I say inner HTML, if I change the inner HTML of it, what do I want to change it to? I want to change it to .inner HTML equals to, I want to change it to name. Okay. That's a third way of output. Let's see if it actually works. Don't worry if you get errors. Errors are your friend. So it didn't work. So if I just go and say JavaScript console, it's not a function, line 15, it does have a problem with that. Sorry? The get was supposed to be lowercase? Yep. You're absolutely right. Thank you. And see, it happens. It will always happen. You can program for 20 years and you'll still get a bug. And you always, if I do this long enough this semester, yep, now I'll be fine. G small, come back after 2 semesters, won't work again. Still, there's an error. Did I save it? Yes. Document.getElement.InnerHTML. Okay, let's see. InnerHTML. Just let me get a syntax for InnerHTML. So it says that's going to work. No. Okay, there it is. Document.getElement by ID. Let's see if this worked. We'll just try to get it working first, So I need an ID my name. I'm just going to put name change and let's see if that works. No. Let's see. Cannot set property of InnerHTML of a null. Okay, I got this. Now this is a very good. It was a very good error. Very good error. It's a good error because you're going to learn something from this. You see, the script is trying to change the inner HTML of my name, right? Correct? The program is reading from top to bottom. When it comes here, it says, hey, I don't know what my name is. I don't know what you're talking about. What it is saying is, it is not defined at this point. Why? Because my name is defined after the script comes. Okay? It's like you haven't had a kid yet, but you're trying to call your kid, hey, Alan, come here. You haven't had a kid, you haven't named him Alan yet. Does that make sense? At this point, line 15, when the browser reads the code, there is nothing called my name, is there? But if I take all of this H2, see this? I take all of it and I put it on the top. Okay. Now my name is defined, right? Cool? Because it was not defined. So the function was trying to call an ID which was not defined yet. So now it is defined, and now if I say name is name, and if I go on and say get my, what was it, my num, and call it, what was the, we called it value. So you see, this is called value because whatever the user entered is stored in value. This is called my num because that's the ID of my num. This is called my name because that's the ID of my name. So if you change those values, just make sure you change them consistently. So now if I actually enter and I say Dilip and I'm entering 4.679, so I get that. And why did it round it off for me? Oh, because I just said I should have used the Math.round if I wanted it. So there you go. And now if I say Dilip, if I say 4.67989, you get that. It rounds off. So I'm gonna stop the recording here, and I'll get you guys to